welcome to another special episode of The Diplomats, where we are interviewing the Season 4 Nexus Online Diplomacy Championship finalists as well as the winner. Today we have Babo Natale. Did I get that right, Babo?
Yeah, hello.
It's nice to talk to you. Our podcast is sponsored by diplomacybriefing.com, and we have a lot to cover in the Season 4 finals. But before we do, Babo, just correct it for everybody. How do you pronounce your name?
Babbo Natale, which is the Italian, the Italian name of Santa Claus.
Ah, okay. So, Babo, this was your second finals appearance on Nexus, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you became interested in diplomacy.
It started with downloading Conspiracy, which is an application for playing diplomacy. I didn't know anything about the game, and I learned what I know now by playing Conspiracy. And after a while, I realized that it was about a board game. So I started reading what I could from those sites like Diplomacy Archive and all of those sites. I started reading about the game. I started reading about tactics, strategy, and so on. And at a certain point, in the Discord chat of the Conspiracy app, Ramon Cajal posted an advertisement. He said that there was a tournament going on, and he posted the link to enter this server. So I thought, wow, this guy is one of the best players in the app. So I want to join the tournament and test myself with those guys. So I entered the server, which now is called Nexus. And in Nexus, I have played the best games I've played in diplomacy. I mean, I have started playing diplomacy basically when I started playing Nexus. And that tournament, by the way, was the what we call now the pre-season, which means it was the first tournament before Season 1. And it was on June 2018. So it was 2 years ago. In this sense, I consider myself pretty inexperienced respect to other players that we find in Nexus, and respect to many players on other platforms like web diplomacy, V-diplomacy, and so on. So it's just 2 years, let's say 3 years, that I play diplomacy, and I really enjoyed it.
The first games you ever played of diplomacy, you made the Season 1 finals.
No, the first game, it was in the preseason, but just the preseason final was a very difficult game. It was at the time, it was the most difficult game I had played. And then Season 1 final was even worse. It was even more difficult, and so on.
How would you describe your approach to diplomacy? What kind of player? How would you describe yourself?
Okay. First of all, I am a good tactician because I am, let's say, a mathematical mind. I like numbers. I like this stuff, and so the tactics side is a good one by me. We should not consider this game because I made many mistakes. I was looking at
we all do. No, I understand.
We all do. It was nice. It was a nice one. But generally, under the tactical standpoint, I am a good one. Under the diplomacy standpoint, I have to improve because I am still not that much confident. And this game is all about your self-confidence and the amount of trust that you are able to communicate to other people, and also to have more on yourself, respect to yourself and to other people. I'm still very worried as a player and very cautious on some sides. And this is seen in negotiations. In negotiation, I still tend to ask more than to propose. And I have to change. I have to propose more, to be more assertive. Is this a word in English?
It's a perfect word. Assertive, yes.
Yes. Instead of asking, because when you just ask, people feel like, okay, you just ask, you just want information, but what are you offering? What are you telling me? So I have to learn. I have to change my mind in this, and I'm improving this, but I see that I still have to change something.
I think that's a difficult. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is about the diplomacy standpoint. I talked to everybody. I talked to all the players, but because I soon understood that good players talk to everybody in the board, and I soon understood that everything can happen in the board, and every alliance can be played, despite the fact that every country has preferable alliances. Um, so I talk everybody, I talk a lot. I'm learning how to be more synthetic, to write less. But I have to improve on another standpoint, which is always have a good focus on the board, on the situation. And this comes with experience, I think. Both the diplomacy side and the strategic side, it comes with experience. And the more you play, the more you improve.
Well, I tell you what, that was very thoughtful. We may be sort of different players because I have very little tactical ability. I'm not bad speaking with people, but I have found it is a difficult balance because when I get more assertive with other players or confident, I tend to turn people off and I have more difficult games. So, as we all play more, we have to learn what's best for us.
Yes. And also it depends on the other players. I mean, experience allows you to recognize players depending on their play styles. So you can say, oh, this guy is like that guy that I played 1 year ago. And this happened to me in this game. So you know how to approach them.
So going into this game, you were ranked very highly on the Nexus rankings. We have it right here. You were 18th, and all of the finalists, I believe, were ranked on the top page. So it was season 4 was very good. But I wonder, did you approach the season 4 finals differently than you did the season 1 finals? Now that you have so much more experience.
I did approach differently because in season 1 I didn't know what I was going into. Instead, here I knew, also based on what happened in season 2 and season 3 finals, and my approach was I knew that every player was going to try to keep the board balanced, and nobody wanted anybody to escape or to escape soon. So I knew that what I had to do was to keep the balance and to not to be on top at the very beginning or when it was too soon. I think this was a good play by me. I mean, a good approach, but it hindered me on trying to do more when it was the right time to do that.
So, in season 1, what power did you play?
I played Russia.
All right, and so in season 4, you drew Germany.
Yeah.
Tell me, do you like playing Germany in the game of diplomacy? What is your approach to that power?
Well, I have learned because my first approach was terrible because I was so afraid to be in the middle of the board. But this time it was easier because this same season I played Germany twice in 2 games, and one of those ones I won it, learning from the mistakes that I made in the other one. So I was happy to play Germany, but differently from those 2 games where I made some choices with alliances. In this game, I made different alliances because, well, it depended on the players, basically.
Okay, so this game was played anonymously. I've interviewed Pez, and he says that he did not know that you were like him in Italian until very later on in the game. Did you know who anybody was early on?
No. Indeed, I supposed that, for example, that England was a users or losers. I don't know how to pronounce him.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. That I suppose the superstition was Turkey, and I suppose the superstition was Turkey till very late on in the game. I thought that Max Vax could be Austria or Russia. I suppose that Captain Meme was Austria or Russia. And I understood that Flint was Italy based on what he said to me in 1901. But at the beginning, I did not recognize Pez, not soon, quite early somehow, because of his way of negotiating. But not early, not at the beginning. I think in 1902, possibly. I'm not sure, but not soon. But I was wrong with the other ones. So I was, it was not for granted. I was based on when they used to chat, basically. But it was not, and how they spoke. For example, I suppose that Captain Meme was that superstition was Turkey because Turkey used some words that were supposed to be American. So I thought, okay, he should be superstition, and I also liked his play style. I suppose, okay, he's superstition, and I was wrong.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, isn't it? So I think Pez told me that he didn't think you were Italian because when you communicated with him, you were not using normal Italian times. That you may, and I think superstition thinks you may have changed your time zone or something, or your communication style to make it more of an American times when you were negotiating. Did you do that? Did you were you conscious of this, or is that just sort of a mistake the other players thought you were doing?
No. Superstition was right. I made a decision based on my previous experience. Finals game are usually very talkative, and people write a lot. So you have to take your time to rest your mind, and also to do your stuff, your job, your life. So I decided that the mornings were going to be for myself, for my job, for my life, and I decided to not answer anybody in the morning, in the Italian morning, so
Right.
that people may think that I was American. So it was deliberately by me, but also because I needed my time, because it's very stressing. You know this.
Yes, I do know how stressful it is. So the other, I guess, question is, if you're changing your times a little bit on purpose, in your mind, were you thinking? And I've asked everybody this question. Do you think that players from different countries have, do you approach them differently? Do Americans tend to play one way? Italians, I think Captain Meme may be English. I'm not sure, or do you just think of each player individually?
I think no, I don't think players have the same approach depending on nationality. That's if this is what you were asking me, right?
Yes, it is. You
No,
said it
no.
better than I did.
Every player has his own identity, his own personality, and there is no. I never saw an approach which was the same depending on nationality. I never think that it's possible because each one of us is different. So why do you think that all the German players play the same or the American players play the same? It's not. No, 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 no.
So before we talk about the moves of spring 1901,
Mm-hmm.
tell me about the negotiations and how things came about. Who were you talking to? Obviously, in the West, you have to talk to England and France, but tell me how your negotiations went with them and how that helped develop your plan.
Well, game 1901. When I see when I see at this game after the end, I see that the spring 1901 and my decisions were very important. When I play Germany, I usually try to ally England, Austria, and Italy. And my target is France, Russia, and Turkey. And this is what I did in the two games that I played as Germany this season. So I started talking to everybody, as I usually do, especially strongly with England and especially strong with Austria and Italy. Also the other players, of course, Russia with the usual talk about Sweden, Turkey, I wish you a good game, we can be long-term allies, and so on. But I genuinely started talking to them. I mean, more than to other players. So this was my approach at the beginning, but I realized that I had to change it. And if you notice, the countries they usually are supposed to be in my games where I play Germany, and this happened this season, these three countries, France, Russia, and Turkey, were eliminated by 1905 in those two games. This time they arrived at the end. So that change of approach changed the board. Somehow I did well because of the players, but we don't know. We don't know. I change approach, and I will explain why. But at the beginning, I started for that kind of alliance, and so I spoke specifically and more to those players.
Okay. So how did it come about? As I understand from England and France, there was a Western Triple. Do you agree that there was a Western Triple agreed to early on?
When France proposed the Western Triple, I was, let's say, annoyed because I didn't want the Western Triple. But after talking with England and after talking with Italy especially, I realized that it could have been safe to not just open strong against France. France looked like a reasonable player and a long-term alliance player. Um, England wanted to start strong, very strong. I liked the idea of doing an alliance with England, but he was very aggressive, and I suppose that this aggression was not going to be profitable in this kind of game.
What do you mean
So
by aggression? How is he aggressive?
he said to me, "I'm okay with that. I'm okay with attacking France at the beginning." This is what I asked him. I asked him. He was available, but he was pushing strong on it, and I suppose that he was. I didn't want to start so strong, so to gain not only too many centers, but also such a strong position since the very beginning. So I thought that probably it would we would have became too strong too early. So I wanted to take it slow. I preferred to take it slow. This was my approach in the game. So in the end, when France proposed the Western Triple, after a while he said, in order to guarantee Germany in the alliance, he really wanted the Western Triple. Okay, so in order to guarantee the Western Triple, we give 6 centers to Germany at the beginning. I said, okay, let's try it.
What's wrong with that? That sounds perfect.
What's wrong with that? And we decide later. So I say to England, let's try it, and we can change it later. Don't worry about that. And then there was a moment that made me very suspicious. Possibly superstition didn't want to, but he told me, he said a sentence. He said, "I'll follow your lead." And this made me panic. I don't say panic, but I didn't like it because it's the kind of sentence that you say in a qualification game to a player that you feel he may be inexperienced. So you say to him, yeah, you are the leader, you are the one who is leading the alliance, and then you stab him. So when he said that to me, I said, well, what is he saying? That, I mean, I didn't like it. So I started being more wary about him. And instead, the approach that France had was, I mean, more suited to me, in my opinion. I mean, that is what I felt. And the same happened with Italy. I wanted genuinely to partner Italy. But the more he used to talk, the more he resembled to another player that I had already played before. And that player was Leukemia, who was the guy who stabbed me twice in season 1 final. So when I got it, I said, no way, no way. But I made a big mistake. I made a big mistake with him at the beginning, because when France told me about the Western Triple, I told to Italy, hey, France told me he wants a Western Triple. So did you hear something about that? Do you think it's possibly an alliance with England? So I talked too much, basically. This was a mistake, a great mistake.
We would say you tipped Italy off. You told them it
Yes,
was coming.
yeah. And so when Italy started knowing about the Western Triple, he started behaving very suspicious. He didn't want that to happen. When he saw the Spring 1901 moves by England, for example, he was not happy, because he also told me, hey, let's sell to England and attack to France. You enter Burgundy, he goes to England, to English Channel, I go to Piedmont. But there was also the issue of the Lepanto with Austria. It was complicated. So Italy started behaving bad to me because he felt attacked, probably. So everything he did in opposition to what I asked to him. I used to ask him, do the Lepanto, because I really wanted those two to collaborate, Italy and Austria. And the more the time passed, the more I felt that Italy didn't want to. And so the more the time passed, the more the alliance with France grew, because France instead was reasonable, was plain, was calm, and 6 centers. So okay. So I understood that he was going to be open next to me, and I had nothing to be afraid of from him. And so that's how it began.
Okay. Well, it could not have gone more perfectly for you than the moves. You thought you were going to get 6 at the end of 1901. You're set up for that perfectly. Everybody moves exactly the way you would want, and no Italian army in Tyrolia, so you don't have to
Yeah,
worry about Munich.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, but the Tyrolia point is important because in 1901, Flint told me, you know what we could do? I could go to Tyrolia and then I could go to Munich because to enter Burgundy, you know? And this is something that this is something that he did and proposed to Ayosers in season 2 final. So when
No, I know. I was. He saved
you
me
were
by doing that.
you were there. So when he told me, I started thinking about it. The first thing it it was okay. Do you think I'm stupid? First thing. Second thing. I started recalling that it was season 2 final. So I told him, you know, this is something that Flint Conk did in season 2 final, but it was not proficient. It was not efficient. I don't think it's safe to do the same mistake again. So I made him know that I got it. I understood he was that kind of guy. And so the more he spoke, the more I felt uncomfortable with him. And the more things went on, Austria was very worried towards him. So the collaboration between Italy and Austria never started. And this meant that I never saw the Lepanto, while instead I asked clearly to Italy, if you want my partnership, you have to partner Austria. And so the more things went on, the more Italy was not doing what I asked. So, you know, happy with the Western Triple.
Okay, and
You know?
so, well, you've confirmed basically what Pez and England said. England said France was insistent on the Western Triple and nothing else.
Yes.
You went along with it, and England felt he couldn't automatically be against one or the other, so that's why he did what he did. I think that's not too different from what you said, but you gave the reasons of why you did it.
Yeah.
So let's go to the fall. I think you received a lot of praise for this. You got 6, but the convoy to Denmark, you held in Denmark. I think it's great. I don't know if you listened to Max Vax or Superstition explain their perspectives of what happened. But before you address them, why don't you tell us, how did this come about? This was fantastic.
Okay, this depended on negotiation with England. England probably started to feel uncomfortable. Also, later in the game, he told me that Italy told him about the Western Triple, and so he knew that the only guy who could have told Italy was me, so he didn't like it. And I think Superstition also said that he was not comfortable with the what looked a too strong bond between me and France. So he started talking to Russia. Russia wanted to enter Sweden and kept on asking. Max Bax surprised me in his podcast. He's a very rational player. He just said, do you want me to enter Sweden or not? And I had pressures for not, because England told me not let Russia in Sweden. France didn't want because he wanted the Western Triple, and the Western Triple supposed England to move to Barents and convoy to Norway in order to take Sweden later and St. Petersburg later. But the point is, England told me, you know, you could enter Sweden. You tell Russia that you bounce him. He moves to Baltics. You enter Sweden, and I take Denmark. Do you mind? Or maybe he told me you enter Ska and I take Denmark, and later
Oh,
you take Sweden.
He floated the possibility
Yeah,
of going to Denmark.
yeah. He asked me,
He
and
didn't
I told,
disguise it at all. So
yeah,
you are now becoming concerned,
yeah, exactly.
and you
Yes,
could tell Russia, no, I don't want you to enter Sweden.
yeah. I could not tell. I mean, at that point, I knew that he wanted to take Denmark because probably he was uncomfortable of being at 4, and he wanted a fifth center. First. Second, he basically told me the moves, and I said, okay, I'm not. I mean, it's only 2 years that I play real diplomacy, but I'm not that inexperienced to know how that maneuver works. At that point, if I was in SCA or in Sweden, my destiny was in their hands. You know, if they wanted to destroy me, they could. So this is the mistake that I was criticized for when I let France into North Sea later on. But doing that at the beginning of 1901, it was like suicide. And I told him, come on, you cannot propose me that. And so he knew that it was me because I use come on very, very often. So I didn't want to. So I never confirmed. I confirmed to England that I was bouncing Russia in Sweden, but I could not do the same to Russia, or maybe I could. Max, I didn't know about Max Vax approach. He said in the podcast that he would have appreciated me to say the truth. I could not say that, so I decided to leave Russia with a doubt, and I also was pretty sure that he was going to Baltic, and I supposed that I could bounce Russia in the Baltic Sea, but it was very risky, so I decided to not confirm anything to anybody in order to not be me screwed, and I decided for the hold. I was forced to do that. I could not do that. You know, I felt attacked since 1901, and it was what happened till 1903 or till the loss of Belgium. So I told them, hey, you are attacking me. I didn't do anything, and Russia was mad at it because I did not confirm this with the move and so on. But you know, this is how it happened. I felt attacked and I had to react.
Well, yeah, and imagine the disaster you would have been in if Russia did move to Sweden and you moved to Baltic.
Exactly.
That would have been. I mean, it would have been obviously a great move, but so risky if it didn't work out, and it would have been the end of you.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't have many choices, and also I was under pressure because Russia wanted me to confirm the moves, and I didn't know how to behave properly, and I decided to do the meanest thing, which is not to say anything. It was mean by me, I recognize it, but everything was risky to do, and so I decided that way. That's it.
Okay, so you build the fleet in Kiel, which makes sense. There was a debate about whether you should build 2 fleets, or I don't know if you remember that on the podcast, but just tell me briefly the thinking here.
The first thing was 2 fleets, of course.
Right.
I don't remember if somebody asked me 1 fleet and 1 army, possibly. The Western Triple was supposed me only building armies, but since
after what England did, what could you do? You had to build.
Yeah, I was under attack by England, under attack by Russia in Baltic, so I had to build a fleet, and I didn't know later what to do. I mean, if to attack Baltic and get rid of Russia, or if to attack England. But I knew that England was going to try to enter Skagerrak or Helgoland Bight. So probably I decided to go. I think I went to Helgoland Bight. I felt England a greater menace than Russia because that fleet in London was supposed to come towards me, possibly.
Yes, the fleet in London, but you're helped by that also because that fleet in London angered France. Yes. And so this is helpful for you in another way.
Yes.
Because he wasn't supposed to build a fleet in London, but I understand why Superstition built the fleet in London, and I understand why it angered France. But this is why the game is played. That move ended up strengthening your alliance with France and hurting England.
Sorry?
No, it's okay. All right, so we go to Spring 2. You cover Skagerrak and Helgoland Bight, just like you said.
Yeah. At this point, I was in doubt if to attack Sweden and risking the entrance in Skagerrak. Probably Sweden was a better choice, but I decided for Skagerrak and Helgoland Bight, and also the hold in Berlin was there because Munich was going to cover Denmark, which was under attack. So all those moves were right, except the other two ones.
Well, there's one I'd like to talk about, which is Belgium to Burgundy, which for the most part has created the most debate here. Not so much this move, but the next one. Pez says he did not know you were moving to Burgundy. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. The point was that I was, I don't know if it was already this season, but I kept on telling England, look, this French guy looks like a person who wants long-term alliances. So for you, later on, it's going to be easy to stab him. If you go towards Russia, me and you have plenty of growth because you can take St. Petersburg. It's easier for me to enter Warsaw or Russia and Moscow. And when this guy moves the fleets down, because he really wanted to Western Triple, France really wanted to. So it was easy to send France south, and it was easy for later on, it would have been easy for England to enter the English Channel, the Atlantic Ocean, and so on, and attack France. I also suggested England how to do that. I suggested him a game that I played as England in season 3, and where I stabbed France. So I told him, you may go there and look at how that game went. It's a good way to stab France, so don't worry about him. He's gone away. He's for sure going south. Don't worry. And what I wanted to do was to prove England that I could attack France whenever I wanted. So that was the meaning of the move to Burgundy, which leads us to the later move.
This one, you don't cover Belgium, you don't take Paris, you move back to Munich. Explain the negotiations and what led you to do this, and defend yourself against all the criticism you've heard from every player so far.
Okay, France just wanted me to go away. he just told me, hey, what the fuck are you doing? I was still under attack in Denmark, so I didn't know how to behave. For example, I could have bounced. There was this move of Russia and Livonia in the previous season, so I thought that I could stop Russia in Prussia by attacking Baltic and attacking Prussia with Berlin. But I felt still menaced on Denmark. So I suppose that it was more likely an attack to Denmark than an attack to Belgium. So I didn't cover Belgium. At least I could have done it with Holland, and I did not suppose that France was going to help England. So the move to Munich was, okay, it's not likely to me. At least it didn't seem likely. Of course, I could have double bounced in Belgium, but I still felt menaced from Russia. And the point was, I didn't want to. At that moment, I want to make good relationship with England, and I didn't want to make a complication with him. So the move to Munich was meant to communicate that I wanted to attack Russia sooner or later. So on one side, this situation complicated my life because England took Sweden and also Belgium, and so England was at 6, I think, and I was at
Correct.
5. But on the other side, from this moment on, I didn't feel the pressure anymore because I felt like, okay, I don't have anything to lose now. I am not in the spotlight anymore because at that moment I was at 6, and everybody were looking at me at that moment. So I felt better, also in a better position to negotiate with England. So somehow it
Well, also with France. I mean, you've also
also,
strengthened your relationship with
yeah,
France here.
also with France. And so from that moment on, the negotiation play was England. Okay, now you have Belgium. Okay, let's go for the Western Triple. As I told you before, France is gone away from the English Channel. He was possibly going away. So now you have Belgium. Okay, you are at 6. Let's go east. That's it. Okay, the past is the past. So I felt relieved somehow.
I understand. And then Pez said in the podcast, but also he posted this, which I'm going to, hold on, which I'm going to put on the screen. Yes, of course, you could have gone to Paris, but if you had attacked Paris, then you've got Russia and England and France to worry about. Here, by moving back to Munich, you've gained an ally in France, and therefore you don't have to worry about 3 people attacking you, just
Yeah.
Russia and England now.
Yeah, exactly. The point is that France, I never felt menaced by France. So for the reason I said before, he wanted the Western Triple. So what was the point of making another enemy? In this sense, I feel very connected with Max Bax. I listened to his podcast. I really appreciated him. He said, when I can make an ally, I try to make an ally. And this time, there was no point for me to just take one center, and then what was going on? I mean, no point into attacking France. The previous move was just, let's say, a demonstration move. Maybe it was dumb to move to Munich, but as I told you before, somehow I was happy with the dumb move because he placed me in a better position. Of course, risky position, because at that point, England had 6, but England screwed himself with the builds at that point. Well, we commented already the not cover of Belgium. From that moment on, England had to decide what to do, and my play was to send him against Russia because France wanted to, and the idea was, if you go there, France goes away, and I was sure about that because he didn't want to mess with England at that point. He wanted to go on. So England had to decide what to do, if to attack France or if to commit against Russia.
So you disband Helgo and Bite as assigned to England.
Yes.
And you get a little lucky with the Fleet Liverpool. Did you have any influence on that? Did you want that to happen? Or I know Russia really wanted it to happen, and so did Italy. What were you urging England to do here?
No, Russia wanted me, first of all, Russia wanted me to destroy Berlin. And at that point, I still didn't trust him. I wanted England to build fleet. He asked me, what should I do? And I told him, okay, I think that 2 armies or 2 fleets are too unbalanced. So build a fleet in Edinburgh and an army in Liverpool. This is a sign of peace with France and a sign of commitment against Russia. That was my opinion. But he was not comfortable with his back open. So he decided, I think, the wrong thing. He decided to put the fleet in Liverpool, and France didn't want the fleet in Liverpool. From that moment on, France asked me to attack England, basically. I also was proposing England to convoy, possibly, to Belgium, sooner or later, from Belgium, sooner or later, to Norway, just to reestablish the situation between us. And to commit against Russia, but his fleet in Liverpool destroyed the feeling with France, and it was at my advantage.
It was. It ended up not what you asked for, but it helped you a great deal because it occupied France, but also Russia here attacks Russia. I'm sorry, England here attacks Russia and France.
Yeah, I asked him convoy to Norway, and he said, yes, I'm convoying to Norway, but not from Belgium. He was moving from Edinburgh, so the convoy to Norway was something I requested, and I think the move of fleets from Liverpool to Irish Sea and also to the English Channel were somehow defensive, but in this situation were not convenient because in the end he was attacking France. On the other side, France asked me, hey, let's get rid of this guy somehow. So I supported him to Burgundy, and the aim was Belgium, of course.
Of course.
I didn't know about Russia supporting the convoy to Denmark. Again, in this case, I made a bet because Denmark was
Berlin could have been taken.
Berlin could have been taken. So the attack from Denmark to Baltic was to avoid the take of Berlin. The support from Munich for Marseille was meant to avoid the bounce that England announced in Burgundy. The defense of Holland was meant to avoid England to attack me in Holland. Basically, he had the chance to do that. And Denmark undefended, it was because I could not defend it anymore. So,
well, this is another very fortunate outcome for you because England made a mistake in not going to Denmark. And not only does England hurt himself with Russia and France, you do not lose Denmark, and then you gain Russia as a friend, or at least temporarily.
Yeah, I consider that it was more or less this at the end of this year, because of England behavior, I told Russia, okay, from this year on, we can collaborate, because I was annoyed with him. I could not stand with England anymore. So I mean, I asked him to do other things. He, apart from the convoy to Norway, okay, but all the rest was not what I wanted him to do. I suggested him to do. I think it was better for him.
All right. So now we go to the fall, and you are moving to Ruhr to help with Belgium, obviously, later on, and you get tremendous help from Russia going to Sweden. So that threat is gone, and you're solidifying your position.
Yeah, I think it was in this moment when I said Russia that England had done enough, so that if he wanted, he could go away from there. Or maybe I asked him. I don't know how negotiation went, but from that moment on, possibly, I understood that Russia was a guy that was used to keep his word. So if you ask sincerely something and you keep your word, you gain his trust. And this was basically the relationship between me and him, more or less till my attack in 1907.
Okay. So when we moved to '04, you get Belgium back.
Yes. At that
So
point,
there was
Belgium.
no, France didn't demand that he
No,
take
no, no, no.
Belgium.
It was something that he owed me somehow, because I didn't attack Paris.
He was paying back the favor.
Yeah.
And the move to Munich was just in case Burgundy
No, no,
moved
no,
there,
no, no.
or
The move to Munich was a move to Tyrolia. I was preparing the move to Tyrolia because if you see the rest of the board, there was this situation in the Mediterranean where Austria was under attack, and I wanted to help Austria desperately. I needed his alliance. I tried to do everything during this game to gain his collaboration. So somehow I promised him that I was going to Tyrolia. So the move to Munich was supposed to prepare the entrance to Tyrolia.
well, let me ask you about that, because this is one of the, I see that, and we can see the moves here in the fall where you do move to Tyrolia. I just sort of assumed it was to aid France in the attack on Italy because France had committed so much to Italy. Why prefer Austria over Italy, who France was engaged in war with?
I wanted because Italy was unreliable. I mean, Italy proved to be unreliable during the whole game. So, in my opinion, the help to Austria was meant to gain an ally in the east, because in the long term I needed someone in the east, and he was the only one possible. Italy was very unreliable, at least with me. So from I think 1902 or 1903, I stopped talking to Italy because everything never felt comfortable with while talking to him, because I feared that everything I said was going to be conveyed to someone else. So I decided to stop talking to him in order not to be screwed like in the past. We already talked about him. So the move to Tyrolia I was helping Austria, definitely.
So, and you
Also,
must have, at
if
this
you
point,
see,
go ahead.
if you see also this board, the alliance between Turkey and Italy is so strong, and they are about to burst into Austria, and they could have become too strong. I didn't want that. So the Tyrolia was meant to defend Trieste at least. And this is what I did. I think, so in this situation, it was necessary. Austria needed an army more, a unit more.
So you must have great trust in France here. Theoretically, Belgium could have been attacked. You don't even enter a support order from Holland to Belgium. Bravo.
Yeah, here we are. Theoretically, you were saying?
Yes, I was saying theoretically, uh, Belgium could have been attacked, but you didn't even enter a support order. Holland support Belgium. You must have
Holland
trusted
was
France.
supporting Belgium. Holland was
Oh,
supporting Belgium.
hold on. Let me see. Let's
Yes,
pull the map.
I remember when you commented this on the podcast. I checked the orders. Holland was supporting Belgium.
Okay, I guess it just doesn't show on the map like this. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So thank you for clearing that
they are
up.
too near. Too close.
Okay, well, at least you've cleared that up. All right, so now when you get Belgium back, you build the fleet. I assume you didn't want to build an army in Munich because you didn't want to anger France, but you couldn't build in Kiel, and yet you needed a fleet to help with England.
Exactly. I helped in the previous season. I helped Russia gain Sweden back, but I told him in advance, listen, I need a fleet. So the only place where I can build it is Berlin, and I also didn't want that fleet in Bothnia from England. That was an issue for me till the disappearance of England. So I needed that fleet. That's it.
This in Superstition's podcast, he disbands here in Spain, and obviously you heard on our podcast Umbel saying this is the time maybe for England to get together with Germany to attack France. This is a good opportunity for Germany to maybe start that. But what I'm hearing from you is at this point England is so unreliable, and France is so reliable that could not have been done.
Yes. What was the point? I mean, what was the point of gaining an ally which has 2 units inside the Gulf of Bothnia? He has 2 fleets. Basically, on my centers, has attacked me since the beginning, more or less.
Yeah, it's all 1901.
Yeah, in the end, it was difficult, and he also was in such a bad position. What was the bargain? I mean, of course, my worries were Russia. I mean, I was so worried about him because each year he kept on building armies, each year by year.
But not in Warsaw. Never in Warsaw.
Yes, that was our deal somehow. He asked me, I think, and I said, okay, don't build in Warsaw. And the troop in the army in Moscow was the most flexible for him. I think I asked him to build in Moscow. But he was a great guy. I mean, when you find a way to build trust with him, it's okay. I mean, it was somehow an easier relationship than to England, than to Italy, even than to Austria. The relationship with Austria was complicated.
Why?
There was poor trust between us during the whole game. Possibly it was also my game style. I kept on asking him what the situation was in the East. I tried to negotiate for him in 1901 with Russia, and later on he told me I was attacked by Russia because of Sweden. because one of the conditions that I posed to Russia at the beginning was, if you deal with Austria, you have good relationship with me. But then there was this Swedish trick, so things went wrong between Austria and Russia. So Austria was not so comfortable, but the army in Tyrolia was there to help him, and we did it.
So this is my sort of question for this stage of the game. You're almost halfway through. You're 40% through. You have one defined enemy of England. You have an ally in France. You and Russia are getting along now. But you want to win the game.
Yeah.
So what is your plan for growth other than splitting up England with France? You know that 7, 8 is probably not going to do it. So
yes.
what are you thinking?
First, in the short term, I wanted Sweden at least. I wanted at least Sweden, if not Sweden and Norway, but with a small of England, possibly one center or two centers in England. I think we were talking with friends about it at this point of the game. So I wanted the excuse of the English fleet in the Gulf of Bothnia was there for me to attack Sweden sooner or later. In this situation, Russia had Norway and Sweden back, but he was under attack again, and I was happy with that because later I wanted to attack Sweden disguising the take of Sweden with an help to Russia. We were in negotiation about what moves to do, gave him an advice, but it was not right. So I was happy about that because I tried to sneak there, but I could not do that. And that was a regret that I have because in this moment of the game, if I had Sweden, I had a great position to attack Norway and then attack Russia, possibly. I really wanted to do that. And that fleet in Berlin was so helpful. I really loved it. And the Baltic, having to have the Baltic was so important for me. I decided to enter, and this is the move, to enter the Baltic with a supported attack, but because I didn't want to be attacked in Baltic by England, but Russia told me it was selfish by me to do that because he needed the defense of Sweden, and I was happy with him being screwed there because that created the situation for me to possibly attack Sweden later, but I failed that, and that was a regret for me. And so, in the south, you see the support.
In the south, you help Austria into Venice.
Yeah.
I messed up with my question before, so for listeners, I clearly was I had everything backwards. I could understand why you'd want to help Austria because it helps France. I caught myself now, but yeah, you greatly help Austria in a time of need for Austria here by pushing. Well, I guess it would have gone no matter what, but still, you didn't know that. Trieste into Venice.
No, he knew that. No, he knew that I was going to Tarolia, and he said to the board that he didn't knew about that. And then we discussed about Venice and about Trieste. He didn't want me to stay there because he was afraid of me attacking him. And I said, "Hey, come on, what are you worried about? I cannot attack you. It's not efficient for me, and I want you to grow. So it's better that you keep Venice. I can defend you from there. Instead, Venice is not it's not easy for me to defend. So it's better that you take it."
Yeah, and the way that Iozers is I'm sure he was happy to hear that.
Yeah, but he also said, you can take Venice. What do you think about it? But it was not efficient. I mean, at that moment, there was this great force from the south, and it was Turkey and Italy. And if they had entered Austria, that was going to be complicated for me. This is what I felt in that moment. So it was better to build a wall against them, consider that there were no Austrian fleets there. And an Austrian fleet would have been very helpful somehow, because in the south only there were Turkish fleets, the Italian fleet, but not Austrian fleets. So right. Trieste was possibly defended by Tyrolia. So it was a unit more for Austria, you know?
Understood. All right, so let's go to the fall here. Now,
yeah, this is my mistake. Russia proposed me to attack, that he could have attacked Norway from Skagerrak with support from Finland and St. Petersburg, or possibly with support from St. Petersburg. I had the chance to attack Sweden with a supported attack, and instead I failed because we arranged another set of moves, and that
where Russia gets everything.
yeah, exactly. And that was a great mistake. Nobody talks about that, but it was even worse than the other because at that moment, Russia without Sweden was going to, I think, lose a unit, and that would have meant me entering Warsaw, possibly. I could finally perform an attack on Warsaw while me and France were going to attack England.
Yes. Okay. So
That
you're right.
that
We
was a
didn't talk about
regret.
that much, but that would have been. Well, of course, we didn't know that had been offered. Instead, this is a very good news for Russia in the north, and
Yes,
uh, and but it does. It's not terrible. Yes, Sweden would have been great, and it would have been allowed you a better chance to grow. Why did you not take Russia up on his offer?
because I didn't focus properly on the moves. I mean, I was not sure about what England was going to do. Consider that I still felt that he wanted to collaborate with Russia somehow against me. So I knew that Russia was receiving offers. Russia didn't want to accept those offers, basically. But I was afraid. In this moment of the game, I was too afraid, and of every move, of every situation, and instead I had to be um, not only more daring, but more self-confident, to look at the board more calmly, and possibly I would have realized that his offer gave me more chances to enter Sweden. In this sense, he was somehow he had a better focus on the game, on the tactical situations, and I lost the chance. I lost the chance.
All right. So, but you do the convoy in spring, which is
Yes. What
this
Amble
is
asked.
really how
Yes.
you. This is really the beginning of the growing for you.
Yes. 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 It's the beginning of the growing. It was obvious at that moment. I defended Denmark with an attack from Baltic, I think, just for defensive purposes. And then I tried to sneak in Piedmont to see if that was possible, but it was not possible.
Yeah. So
And
two
also,
questions here. One, you were greatly aided by the fact that England did not build that.
yeah,
Uh,
yes,
did not
I,
make a build.
I
Russia
don't know.
accused them of doing it intentionally. England said there was a problem with the server. Uh, what's your take on that?
I don't know. I don't know why he did not do that. I was surprised, and well, it was the end of the game for England. I was happy. What can I say?
Right.
I didn't know why properly. I was
Why did
very
you want to sneak into Piedmont? Because France said he didn't know you were moving there. You just confirmed it. That would have seemed to have alarmed France a great deal if you had moved there.
yes. Consider that it was also Austria pushing me to exit Tyrolia. He said, "What are you doing in Tyrolia? I can defend Trieste, but Trieste is defended. No, he may be under attack. There is the troop in Albania." So I never felt that Austria was safe. So to me, that troop was there still to defend Trieste, but I tried to see what was going on with France. But I think he he understood it, possibly from our negotiations, and then that's it. The thing ended up there. He told me, "Hey, what are you gonna do?" Okay, okay, nothing, nothing. It was just a try. It was just a try. Consider, with the convoy to Wales, I was not going to attack France in the continent anymore, but the target in the moment was England.
Yeah, I understand. I thought, though, you may risk England may bounce you in London or something by doing that, but you had a good enough relationship to where you weren't worried about that.
Yeah.
All right. So in the fall, you take London.
Yes.
You get into Helgoland and Bight to set up an attack on the North Sea. You're giving up on Sweden at this point. Russia keeps Scandinavia forever. And I guess because of what Austria is asking you, you move back to Munich.
Exactly. This was the moment when Austria did the beautiful play of entering Romania first, and then Serbia was surprised that he managed to gain a good relationship with Russia. But from that moment on, Austria was blocked. And so I moved away because he wanted me to move away, but I was asking him if he was ready to move to against Russia. And I also supposed that he was going to occupy Galicia sooner or later. I didn't know about the take of Serbia. I was surprised. I was happy for him.
It would have been nice if you moved to Vienna and with your relationship with Austria, maybe you could have been, but
but
not very risky.
No, it was not profitable to destroy the relationship with Austria, which I was trying to build for just one center.
Understood.
And this was the moment also where I took London with a single move, and I asked France to bounce me in Belgium in order to avoid England to sneak into Holland or Belgium.
Or Belgium. No, that was very good. So you took it and you built the army.
Yes, I built the army because at this point of the game, I remember that podcast that you released after the spring 1907 moves. At this point of the game, another fleet. Oh, I don't remember if I thought about a fleet, but Russia was going to build another army. Austria was going to build 2 armies. So I pushed on Austria an attack to Russia at this point of the game, which thing is what I did later. I remember in the podcast that Humble said, okay, there is great equilibrium in this bird. Somebody has to do something. And I was that somebody. I was that one. I had to decide if to go to France or if to go to Russia. And in that moment, I talked to Austria and I said, look at what is happening in the East. There is this army of Russia in Armenia. I was sure that in the spring, the moves between Russia and Turkey were going to be somehow, I don't say conventional, but to waste time, because the possibility of the convoy was there. I saw that. And I told him, hey, look, the juggernaut is still on. There is an avalanche coming for you. So don't focus on Turkey. Why don't you come with me against Russia? There was Galicia open. He could have, in my opinion, I could have gave up with Bulgaria and attacked Romania and moved to Galicia in this moment in order to help me, or maybe to accept my offer to take Warsaw. If I wanted him to do that, I wanted him to help me against Russia in this moment, because each year Russia was building an army more. And I was annoyed with that, because how could I stop him? And he was
Right.
saying to me, okay, when are you attacking um, France? Also, Turkey told me, I was in talk with Turkey also, and I told him, if you help me against Russia, and the same I did with Austria, if you help me against Russia, I can do that. You know, another thing I may have done, now I see that, it was to build another fleet in order to attack possibly Sweden. But at this point of the game, France had already the fleets. So I supposed, I thought, and we talked about it, that we could attack Scandinavia together. So I needed more armies than fleet. This is what I felt.
Like you. This is a big controversial move because you do not go to the North Sea. Instead,
Yeah.
England into the North Sea, and it looks like you're trying to make an attack eventually on Sweden, but you still don't have the units to do that. Explain what's going on.
Yes, we were in talk with France to attack Scandinavia, basically, and also to get rid of the English fleet. So here, the chance was, in terms of a two-way alliance, it was very efficient because we were going to have 4 fleets around Scandinavia sooner. And I decided to attack Russia for the reason I said before. I was more worried about the juggernaut that was on. You can see the bounce in Smyrna. You can see that Austria is there losing time, wasting time against Greece. The preparation of an attack from Russia towards Austria. So I wanted to do something, and I wanted to demonstrate Austria that I really was committed against Russia. But he didn't follow my advice, and instead, on the other side, we decided just to get rid of England. And to me, it was okay. The take of the North Sea from France, but the point is that I also separated the 2 fleets because one was in the Baltic and the other one was in Helgoland Bight. So this was a mistake probably, and also it was a mistake. Well, I was still afraid of Russia doing something against me. So, and that was also a mistake from me. Russia was not going to do anything. And he just was okay with me confirming the demilitarized zone on and on. So I was preparing an attack to him, and I thought that sincerely that France was going to commit against Russia himself.
You thought he would cut Norwegian support and you would be able to take Sweden. But if you had gotten his support into the North Sea, you could have definitely done that.
Yes, but the point was how to sell France that I was going to take the North Sea. I wanted it, but he didn't want me to stay there. Also, let's say for Edinburgh, that indeed, I thinking back to it, there was the chance I could do that. I could just say, okay, there is England fleet, but it's okay if I take it the North Sea, and then when we get rid of the English fleet, you move your fleet south because you have those issues in the Mediterranean Sea. You are not moving from there. You need a fleet more. But I think that in this moment of the game, I lost a bit of focus. I had to be more focused on the progression of the game. The attack to Russia, I did not dislike it because Russia and Turkey were in such a good relationship. I knew that. So I needed someone to attack Russia somehow because I needed those centers. And France was not menacing me anymore. So I only partly regret it.
Okay. You might want to take a little bit of time to explain to people who might be listening to this just to sort of learn, maybe finalists in years that are coming up, the stress and how much press and how much pressure someone feels in a moment like this? It's just overwhelming, isn't it?
Yes, indeed, as I said before, this was really a pivotal moment because England was over. And I think I didn't put too much effort into thinking about how to follow because I didn't consider much the attack to France at that moment because of Russia. The pressure is high. The pressure is high because every turn you feel like you may be attacked somehow. And also, negotiation with people are not always plain, are not always easy. As I said before, with Austria, I had lots of difficulties. So pressure arises because you don't know exactly what is the best thing to do. You never know that. Although when you see the map from outside without knowing the negotiation, you say, okay, I would do like that. Pressure is
Well,
high.
it's
Pressure is
there,
high.
but also, yeah, but I mean, I can understand at that moment, you have more centers than France does. So France wasn't maybe so interested in helping you further. So there's a lot of things that go on in a situation like this.
Yeah, there are many things, but France was. I mean, look at the convoy to North Africa. I was happy about that. It was the
Yes.
next. Yeah, in to me in North Africa, you should never put an army. Never. It's complicated. You waste a convoy for a move. Then you need another convoy to take the army from there away. So I was happy about that. And when I was committed to the attack to Russia, so that was helpful. But there was this situation where I didn't take any center, and instead France took two. And people told me, hey, you just gave the game to France because you cannot attack him anymore. But I kept on saying on Austria, for example, look, I had to do something with Russia because nobody's helping me. Who is gonna stop him? So this was basically the rationale. And also the convoy to Denmark. I also supposed I could convoy to Livonia. It was a good move. I didn't know exactly how to do that. Me and France got rid of England finally. But this situation was tricky for me. It was tricky because in this moment, I think that I had to put more attention on the moves. But the balance with France was not so easy because there is a promise here. The promise here is we attack Russia together in Scandinavia. And that was a good deal for me because from that moment I could have entered Russia and possibly balanced an attack from France, which thing unfortunately I did not do in the fall, in the next year.
So why the move from Berlin to Munich?
This I don't remember that exactly. Possibly to have more to have more um, flexibility, and if indeed it was helpful for later because what happened later on was that France attacked me, so that move was helpful somehow to be covered in the south because Austria, look at what he did. He was covering Tyrolia. From whom? Yeah,
Right.
this speaks a lot about my relationship with Austria. I was so stressed about it. I was so deceived because I needed an ally in the East to say something, to do something, and I could not have the chance of having him. So if you recall, I asked England attack Russia. I asked Austria, attack Russia. I had this promise from France we could have attacked Russia in Scandinavia. It never happened, you know?
All
Yeah,
right, so let's, now France gets two. He jumps
yes.
one up on you. He's got the fleets. He's, you know, I can see why you'd want to be in Munich now.
Mm, yeah, it was
And
better somehow. This was a mistake. This was a big mistake. In the north, I can explain easily. I told we were discussing with France an attack to Scandinavia. The possibilities were two. He could take Norway and I could take Sweden, or I was going to be convoyed to Norway. Okay. Instead, he did what to me was not proficient. People told me, he's gonna attack you and so on, but he made an enemy out of it. And from that moment on, I went back and I attacked him. So the wrong moves here were the defense of Silesia. And in that moment, I felt again, of course, I felt attacked by Russia. In fact, I remember Max Bach said, I wanted Germany to know that he could not do anything. So I was in doubt if to cover Burgundy. I arranged a bounce with France, but France didn't keep his word. And from that moment on, it was just me against France.
it's not the first time that there was an arranged bounce in Burgundy where there was support back into Burgundy. Remember when you helped Marseille get into Burgundy from Munich? England thought there was an arranged bounce. So France did that twice.
Yes.
And obviously this is very beneficial for him because he takes Holland. He's set up perfectly for Belgium.
Yes.
This was clearly how France was going to grow, and you are occupied in the east with Russia.
Yes.
Now, I don't think I'm misreading the map, but I don't see Norway supporting Sweden here. I'm looking at Norway whole.
No. You're right. You're right. In fact, I was surprised, and my double bounce was just to, let's say, waste time, because I told France we attack together in the fall. Instead, he told me, no, attack soon, because I'm going to cut Norway, and he didn't do that. By the way, I didn't want to attack Sweden in the spring, because then I had to manage the fleet, the Russian fleet around there, and I didn't want to. So I wanted him and me to attack together in the fall. So, and surprisingly, Russia did not defend. I don't know if the attack from Sweden to Baltic was a defensive one, maybe to cover Livonia, possibly. I don't see any other reason for that.
Right.
And of course, there was another possibility to take Sweden, but I never saw Sweden free in that moment, because I had to wait for France to help, and his help never came. And when Pets said that I didn't want to attack Scandinavia, he's a liar. He's not true. I really wanted that, but he never gave me that help. Nobody helped me against Russia. Nobody. Not even Turkey. I asked him. I asked to Austria. Everybody.
All right. Well, Turkey at one point had Russia in his backyard, so I understand that, but I get it. But here, you're mad at France, obviously, so everything is back to go back towards France. And
Yes.
I assume you've worked something out with Russia here not to advance
Yes.
on you,
Yes.
which you can expect Russia to do.
Me and Russia were back to the let's keep it clear at our border situation. I stood in Silesia. I convoyed back to kill, gaining one turn, and France screwed himself with these wrong moves. And so I understood that Russia was, let's say, a plain player. You say something, you keep your word, it's okay. So I had a good relationship somehow with him, and I repeat, after his podcast, I really appreciated him as a player. I like his ideas of playing, so it was okay for me. And on the other side, there was
good.
this
Is the
more
move you're
Austria.
talking about with France? I mean, this was criticized heavily, I think rightfully so. France did not go into the North Sea if he was
Yeah,
going to.
yeah,
This ends up really helping you
yeah,
in a bad spot
yes,
because he
yes,
can't get it back right away.
exactly. Exactly. And from that moment on, what did I have to do if not take Liverpool? You know,
Correct.
I convoyed, I convoyed back. I stayed in Silesia just to tell Russia, hey, I am defending my position somehow, and that's it.
Because
All the move,
you would
all
have
the
had to
moves.
defend London. It would have been a guessing game between,
Yes,
so yeah, so that it was very helpful to you. You have Berlin open, obviously, but you get Burgundy back. You're set up better.
yes.
Let's see in the winter here. Oh, sorry, jumped ahead. So even in the year in which you're stabbed, you don't lose a unit.
Exactly. And also, um, I am in good terms somehow with Russia. Um, and
Austria is
Russia,
Austria is falling apart.
yeah,
Uh, there are
Austria.
opportunities here.
There are opportunities. My moves were meant in 1909 to gain a center back from France. I mean, what I needed was to to tie France, because I know at this point of the game I know that France is pass, and my play at this point was I suppose that Turkey was going to attack Russia, because if you see the units, Russia has units between Austria and Turkey. So what is better to do from Turkey if not to attack Russia? This is what I expected. This is what I wanted. But you will see that in 1909 things did not go as expected. So in
I,
this year, I gave all of myself to tie France at least, because I know that Russia is gonna lose something.
well, you just said something that I want to just ask you a question about. You said by this time you knew France was Pez, and I'm wondering, in your press between the two of you, are you speaking to each other in Italian or English?
English.
Don't you find that very strange?
No, why not? No, it's okay. I mean, it's but I understood he was, but it's okay to keep on English. It's the same. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, it speaks to how well you know English and speak English, both of you, that you did that. I think I would have expected you to say Italian. All right. So, yes, here we go. Spring 1909. What was the big surprise to you?
Uh the the big surprise. I didn't have big surprises here. I stood in from me. I stood in Burgundy because I needed that position. I did everything I could to gain one between Holland and Belgium. I took Edinburgh because or I took Edinburgh or I took the Northern Sea, and Russia, of course, with the fleet in Sevastopoli. Um, uh, yeah, in Italian it's very similar to the Russian one.
Siva Stupos. Yeah, I got you.
Sevastopol. At that point, the deal with Russia was easy. You go back and fight Russia, fight Turkey. I stay there. I don't attack you. That's it. I did on purpose not enter Helgoland Bight because I wanted to do later. So my moves were correct, I think, because
I don't know. I don't explain that because that's the thing I don't understand. You could have set yourself up for in many ways with a unit. I mean, you and Helgo and Bite would have been helpful, maybe with North Sea, maybe with Holland. Instead, it's two bounces. Uh, tell me why. Tell me
I,
how that's a good
I
move.
I didn't want to lose London in that year, basically. So that was defending London and gaining Edinburgh. So the game, the target for me was to tie Pass at the end of
Got it.
1909. If I moved to Helgoland Bight, then I could not defend London and I could not attack Holland. One between Holland and Belgium were to be mine. So that move, that bounce was meant to provide me the room to take one between Belgium and Holland. Also thanks to the hold in Burgundy, which was more powerful than going to Paris or Marseille, in my opinion. Possibly Marseille was a better move, but it was a guessing game, and I didn't want to guess. I want to be sure that in the fall I could take a center from PES.
I don't
Unfortunately,
think. Yeah, I don't think Humble criticized you for the Burgundy hold. Everyone who's talked about it says they think that's very reasonable.
yeah, indeed, I didn't listen to the last two podcasts,
Oh,
so
come on,
I,
Baba.
I didn't have any time left, but I was in doubt about what to do there. Possibly the bounce in Belgium was another good one, but to gain Belgium in the spring and lose Burgundy was not a good move, in my opinion. At that moment, I could have used Silesia to bounce in Munich later, but I decided that way.
Okay, so we can take us through here, but you obviously get Holland back.
Yes.
You get Edinburgh. So now
Yeah.
you've got
Yeah.
two, and you're in a great position going in to at the end of
Uh,
the winter 1909.
le-
You're at 8.
yeah. There is one thing I want to explain in fall 1901 before we go to the end. At this moment, I suppose that Turkey was going to attack Russia, and Russia was going to lose one center. So the rationale behind the Silesia hold was in 1910, depending on how things move, people may want to throw centers, and I wanted to keep good relationship with Russia, who was supposed to go to 7, in my opinion. Instead, what?
Oh, I
Yeah,
understand
and
now. I should
this,
have asked that question.
yes, and also at the end of this year, I went to Turkey and said, "Hey, why did you did that? Why did you help Russia? And why did you put the fleet in Romania?" We did the same thing. We decided to act similarly. He told me, it looks like we thought the same. Um, we wanted to keep good relationship with Russia, and Russia gained this great advantage of not being attacked both by nor by me nor by Turkey. And I was pissed because in this moment I realized later, I suppose that Warsaw was not going to be defended, okay? But what I did not think is that if I take Warsaw, I can place a fleet more, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and even if Russia kicks me out of Warsaw, I can go to Livonia, and if I move a fleet more, I may have had many chances to do something. But I didn't want to screw relationship with Russia at that point, and Turkey did the same, and Russia went to 9,
Russia
and I
goes to
was
9 instead of
yeah.
being at 8 with a uh, and now Russia's in no mood he can build in Warsaw, and is in no mood to throw you any centers because he's got the game in sight.
Yes, and this was the moment. I came from 1.5 years of rage against PES, and this was the moment where where I had to do something in order to secure myself a good position. So I could have attacked the Northern Sea, which was okay, but I tried, and maybe I failed. I tried to reach an agreement with PES, and I told him, look, we can go to 9 both. I don't attack you in Belgium, you don't attack me in London. You go to Norwegian Sea or you go to Ska, and I take the Northern Sea, so I defend my centers, and you take Norway, I take Sweden. It's a good deal. But he played me in this moment. He played the role of the
He didn't move to Norwegian Sea, and he didn't move to Skagerrak, and you moved east.
Yes, but this was what I offered to him. But I made a great mistake here. My in the frenzy, Pets in the report said that we talked for 1 hour before the resolution. And in that moment, there was this, literally, it was a frenzy, a moment where we were just chatting frenetically. My target for sure was the Northern Sea in this moment. I had prepared that move. But what I could do is that he told me, let's bounce in York. Because his idea, and I could not see that, his idea was that Belgium was lost because I was attacking him, and London was lost by me because he could take it. I asked him to move the fleet Brest away, to cover Picardia with Brest. He didn't want to listen to me. So possibly what I had to do was to just attack him, and then to try to gain an advantageous position with the Northern Sea and also against Russia. In this moment, I say to Russia, listen, I don't attack you, you don't attack me, it's okay. And he told me, can I attack you in Silesia? Okay, let's do that. Silesia was there to defend me, but I did wrong because I had to try to take the Northern Sea and then to take Belgium. And instead, after the next juggernaut move, I moved to Tyrolia because I at that point I was afraid of an attack from Russia somehow. So, and also I proposed PES. Let's go to Piedmont. You go to Piedmont, I go to Tyrolia. We may take Venice, possibly, you know. But it was wrong, probably. In this moment, I had to just play like a gambot, probably. That was better than trying to reach a deal, because at this point of the game, you know.
Now, it's controversial in the fall 1910, but you throw a center to, you can't win. You throw Denmark. You throw Denmark to Russia.
In this moment, I realized after the resolution, I realized that I still had a small chance for the final victory. London was lost and Belgium was not mine anymore. So Pets was virtually at 9 and I was virtually at 7. I go to Russia and tell him, I started whining. This guy fooled me again. I apologize and blah, blah, blah. I don't want him to win. So I give you Denmark. So I prepared an attack to Sweden, basically.
Yeah.
So this is the first thing I did. But that would have placed me to 8. I needed the 9th center. So the only possible 9th center was Trieste. And so I went to Turkey and told him, you're not gonna win, because if you tie France at 9, he is gonna beat you. He told me, yes, it's right. So did you mind support me to Trieste? And I told him that in case of 9, I could have won. Nobody wanted France to win. First of all, nobody wanted. He told me, yeah, everybody was pissed. Everybody was didn't like him, did not like his negotiation style. Max Vax said, it did not seem to me he did enough to win. So basically, I was trying to push on that. But Turkey asked me, how do you go to 9? And I told him, use a bit of fantasy. And he understood, yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see that you may screw Russia in Sweden. I was thinking about doing the same. So for the next time, again, me and Turkey were thinking the same thing. So he proposed, he saw the possibility to go to 10 by proposing Romania, offering Romania to Russia, and tried to enter Budapest. So the dirty job was done by Italy. During the Italian night, Italy wrote to Russia and said that he was going to throw Naples to France. So from that moment on, Russia thought that the victory was at 11. And I knew that. I knew that what was going on. So I had two choices: or to reveal Russia that there was a plan to screw him in the south, but that would have placed me in a very difficult position in order to gain the help from Turkey, or to just tell Russia, hey, victory is at 10. There's no way you need 11 centers. Just defend. I give you Denmark. That's it. Russia didn't listen to me, and also during my day he was at work, so he was able to stay online only 1 hour before the resolution. So there was the possibility for me to chat with him. I chatted with Turkey the whole day in order to find an agreement, because there was this strange situation in which both of us could lose the chance to win by crowning the other one.
Of course, you could have. I'm curious. Ultimately, how, I guess you could not reach an agreement with Turkey, so you decide to give it to France by supporting Trieste.
I decided to give it to Russia because I genuinely didn't want France to win. So in the end, it didn't work because Russia didn't have time to think about the moves. And the only possibility for him was or to defend Budapest and not try the take of Romania, and that was 10 with the take of Denmark, or to take Venice with my support and then possibly losing Trieste, but defending Budapest, and that was 11 again. But he did the only thing he didn't have to do, which was not defending Budapest. That's it.
All right. So, Babo, that was a wonderful analysis of the game. I cannot thank you enough for what you've said and walk us through your moves. Is there anything else you would like to say about the game that has not been said?
About the final game, I think that my approach to always keep the balance somehow was right, because I always felt all the players were trying to address who was on top. So in the end, the idea of not going strong in the beginning was better than also in 1907, 1908, to not go too forward, too far from the other ones. It was right to try to take it slow, because this game was going to end this way in any case, to me. And the other thing that I want to ask people that listen to this podcast, I am very disappointed when I play Germany and I cannot collaborate with Austria. And this also happens when I play Austria and I cannot collaborate with Germany. So I ask people that listen to this podcast, when you play Austria, please help Germany. And if you play Germany, if you play Germany, please help Austria, because there is no way the two countries can attack each other if not at the end of the game, and there is no way they can survive if they do not push the side powers in a difficult position. So it happened to me this game, it happened to me in other games also this season. When you are one of those two countries, you need to collaborate. When people do not collaborate because I know I don't feel you so much, I don't like you so much, it's over. It's over.
Well, Bobo, that might be good advice in diplomacy, but it is not good advice in the real world, because the last time Austria helped Germany was when Hitler went there, and we don't ever want to go through that again. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and your explanation.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you to diplomacybriefing.com for sponsoring us, and the Nexus community for having a great tournament season 4, and just a wonderful group of finalists. Thank
Yes.
you, and I know it's late your time, so good night, and
Thank you.
grazie, Bobo.
Prego. Ciao.
Bye-bye.